right, sir. Well, welcome to Toronto.
Thank you.
And your first of 3 Riot Fests.
Yes.
That's pretty awesome. You're one of the few bands that are actually doing all 3 of them. That's cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
There's a few that are only doing 1. Some are doing 2. You guys, all 3. That's nice.
Nice.
You're half a year into your 6th album right now.
Yes.
Happiness is. Is everything still happy?
Yeah. Yeah. It's been good. We started off touring pretty strong right after the album came out, and then we had a nice break in the summer. Got to spend some time at home, and now we're going back at it pretty hard for a while. So yeah, it's good.
This is your first album with Hopeless Records. How has that been?
It's been good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're very laid back, and you know, like, just very cool about everything. They've really been great. It's been a very nice experience. It's been a nice change from our experience with the self-titled album.
Okay. And that was that on a major?
It was, yeah. It was the last album with Warner Brothers.
Without getting into the dirty nitty-gritty, this was a smart decision for you then? You feel like the release has gone better?
Yeah, I think so. You know, like, they definitely, Hopeless definitely has cared a lot more about the album than with the last album in Warner Brothers, and you can just tell when a label has their heart in it, you know, and when they don't.
Yeah. I think it's got to be. I mean, I think it's tough for musicians right now in this current musical climate. I think it's equally tough for labels. I don't think they really know how to react to what's going on. It changes monthly, you know?
Yeah, and that was the thing with Warner Brothers. I think that they had been really good to the band for a long time, but so many things were changing over there, and you know, yeah, like you said, it's just as hard for labels as it is for bands right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's tough.
This is your 2nd album with you and Sean kind of back in the fold. Do you feel like the mojo's firing again? You guys are jiving?
Yeah. I felt like with this record we kind of came into our own as a group. You know, with the self-titled, I think there was definitely like a learning process of writing together again and working together. I mean, we clicked pretty naturally, but we still, throughout the self-titled, we were still, you know, figuring stuff out about how we work together and how to write together, especially. And with this one, it felt like we were just there, like, right from the start, and we, you know, kind of hit the ground running with the writing of this record. So,
how much time in advance of the self-titled did you guys all have together? Did you get to jam together, or was it sort of like, okay, we're back, let's make a recording?
Well, we did we did a couple of sessions where we got together and wrote, like, right off the bat, but you know, it was very loose kind of writing, just more to reconnect and sort of throw ideas around. And then we did a very short tour, and then went right back into writing, and we had a decent amount of time to write, but I think we could have used more time of playing live together before we got back into the writing. And that's one thing that happened after that self-titled came out, you know, is we spent almost 2 years of, like, pretty solid touring, just playing and playing and playing live.
You got to do that on Warner's dime.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I can't complain too much. So, but I think that definitely kind of, I think, helped us gel. Was that all that touring and playing live together? You know, you really get to know each other as musicians over that time.
Right on. Can you tell me how you first heard that you were going to be involved with Riot Fest? And did you know it was going to be all 3 shows at the same time?
I did not know. We had done the Chicago Riot Fest last year,
nice.
And that was really fun. That was a great show, and so I think we might have heard this year about the Chicago one first, and then that we were going to do all 3 of them. But yeah, it was pretty cool that they asked us to do all of them.
Right on. You guys were lumped in at the turn of the century with the whole emo wave. Is that a term that kind of makes you wince now? Like new metal would make Korn wince, or are you good with it?
Well, it made us wince back then. You know, we never really liked it, or we never really cared that much one way or another.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was a term that was, like, spread out across like so many different types of bands, and no one could really quite explain what it meant either. You know, it seemed like sort of a like a meaningless thing that people just. But you know, people need labels for things, you know. So I think we kind of came to accept it grudgingly, and you know, at this point, I don't know. I don't hear too many people talk about emo anymore.
No.
Although I know some people. I've heard that there's an emo revival happening.
It's been a decade. That's typically how it goes,
things
right?
come back around again.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. You might just see it all kind of fold back in.
Yeah, another wave of emo bands.
Can you recall how originally, like back in the day, you guys all got together? Were you all mutual friends? Did you meet each other through, you know, someone saying, "Hey, this is a good musician, that's a good musician"?
It was pretty strange how we all came together because only some of us had known each other before the band. Eddie, our guitar player, had been in a lot of bands on Long Island, and
right.
He had kind of made a name for himself, and he was starting a new band. And he originally asked, he started out with a different singer, and that singer was friends with me, and he told Eddie about me, so I joined the band through him. And then at that point, the drummer and bass player were different as well. So we went through a few bass players, then drummers changed, but that was also again through friends of friends, kind of. We were looking for a drummer,
right?
And then Adam, our singer, ended up. We just came across him. We were looking for a bass player,
right?
And we played a show in North Carolina, and he was at the show, and we kind of started talking. He knew some of the people we knew, some of the bands we knew from Long Island, and he was just like, "Well, I'll play bass for you guys and move up to New York." And we were kind of like, well, that's crazy, but if you really want to do it, then cool. So he moved up, started playing bass, eventually took over singing, and then Sean was the last person, and he was friends with Mark, the drummer. They had actually grown up together, so he brought him in, and they were the only people who had any connection really before the band. Just drummer and bass player.
For you as a musician, what is your utopian definition of happiness?
Wow, utopian definition of happiness. I think it would be probably being able to play, write, and record music whenever I feel like it, and go play shows whenever I feel like it, but still magically be able to be independently wealthy throughout all that, and never be under any pressure to do anything if I didn't want to.
So judging by your laugh, you have not hit that utopian happiness
no,
yet.
Not yet.
Do you think you ever will?
I don't know. I don't know. Fingers crossed.
How did you guys all approach writing Happiness Is? Did you have any like special mantra or any like benchmarks that you wanted to hit on this album?
We didn't really. We don't generally like discuss plans and goals that much. I think maybe one of the only things that I think we sort of agreed on is that we were gonna just be open to any idea, you know, that we thought was cool. Because I think there has been a tendency with this band to think of like, well, that's a cool idea, but it's not a Taking Back Sunday idea, you know, that doesn't really work for what Taking Back Sunday does. And I think that was one of the only things that we did, and we all just kind of came there naturally. I think we were just tired of that sort of approach, you know, and just like, if it's a good idea, let's go with it. It doesn't matter if it's a Taking Back Sunday style idea or not, you know.
In your tenure with Taking Back Sunday, you must have some interesting perspective on the business of making music. What do you think is both good and bad about making music right now?
Well, obviously it's bad right now that, you know, it's very difficult to sell music to people because they can get it for free very easily. That's made things a lot harder, you know, just as from a practical point of view, making a living doing this. I think one thing that is good though is like there's no set way of doing things now, which I think is kind of cool. There's a lot of options for bands to do things on their own, or do creative things with the way they release their music, or the way they work with a label. And I think if you're right now, if you're creative and have some good ideas and some interesting ideas, I think it's also easier to get noticed and put those ideas to use, like than it would have been 10 years ago. I think it was the system was a lot more set in its ways 10 years ago now than it is now.
Do you guys ever sit around and talk about what it might be like, assuming in a decade you're making music still? Do you have any like sort of pie in the sky ideas of shit? Maybe we won't even make anything physical. It'll just all be electronic, everything.
Yeah, I mean, I figured it's headed that way, that everything will be electronic. I mean, I think there's always going to be people who want something physical, but I think it's going to become more and more of like just a specialized small run of vinyl. Or I don't really see why anyone would want CDs in 10 years, but I guess you never know. But yeah, I'm not sure. I think anyone who says they kind of know where things are going to go in the future of the music business right now is probably lying.
What's your personal favorite Taking Back Sunday song, and why?
It kind of changes from time to time. Right now, I think the last song on Happiness is my favorite. A song called Nothing at All. And it's a sort of acoustic song, and it's got a lot of like ambient sounds, and it just sort of builds into this giant sort of dissonant thing at the end, and it's really different than anything the band has done, I think, which is cool, and it's also something like that. If I heard, I would be interested in, if I wasn't a part of the band, I would listen to that song and be like, wow, I really like that song, which, doesn't always happen.
I understand you are going to stream a concert next week on the interweb. How did that all come together?
I'm not really sure how it came together, other than our manager just called us up and said, hey,
this is coming together.
Yahoo wants to stream this concert. Is that cool? And we're like, yeah, that's cool.
So it's the whole thing, and you can go and check it out after. You don't have to watch it live. You can they'll back it up, and you can check it out at a later date.
I'm not sure if it's just a one-time you got to watch it live, or if I assume that you'll be able to watch it after it's done and recorded. Yeah.
And one last thing, you are going to go out on tour with The Used and Frankie from My Chemical Romance, his new band. That's going to be a cool little emo bill.
Yes. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
How long is that tour? Is that like 6 weeks, 2 months?
That's about 5 weeks, 5.5, something like that.
Right on. Well, I mean, it's going to be great to see you here in this environment. It'll be a shorter set, but I don't know if you're coming back to Canada, actually. I think that's all U.S. dates, isn't it?
We might do the other side of Canada, I think. I think we might have one show in like Vancouver or something like that.
But if you're going to go anywhere, you got to go to Vancouver. That's cool.